Welcome to the Life Science Success Podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don Davis. I'm a consultant in life sciences. I help companies manage complexity and increase performance. Just before we get into today's interview, I wanted to quickly mention that we have the organizational maturity assessment out on my website for organizations to go and take. The great thing about this survey is that it gives you a result in terms of how scalable your organization is. I'm actually working on a couple of different tools for companies right now that will also help to bring companies along in terms of their overall organizational maturity. So with that, I wanted to bring in our guest. Our guest is Bremer Louw. Bremer is the Vice President of Operations at Bioforum. He's been in the clinical research industry for 15 years and has extensive experience in data management and biostatistics programming. So with that, welcome.
Thank you very much, Don. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So would you mind just taking a little bit of time and telling the listeners just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm from South Africa. I'm married. I've got two children, and I love playing golf. I'm not very good at golf, but I love playing golf. But more on the professional side, I've been in the clinical research industry for more than 16 years, and I'm a programmer at heart. When I was back in primary school, I had a paper route, saved up some money, and then in grade 8, I was fortunate enough to buy my first computer. I immediately started programming right through high school and then went to study programming at university. And then after university, my first job as a programmer was in the clinical research industry. So, a programmer at heart, if I can say that.
Yes, I mean, that's great. And I mean, thank you so much for doing this interview. I mean, for anybody that's here in the US, it's getting to be dinner time. But for you, it's 11 p.m. at night. And so, quite late for you as well. So thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. It's great to be here.
So what made you want to be in the life sciences field?
So when I was studying, I always envisioned myself being a software engineer or software developer, writing software, user interfaces, databases in the back end, and everything in between. And I never envisioned myself in the clinical research industry. But towards the end of my studies, I had some friends who worked in the clinical research industry, and I contacted them and said, tell me a bit more about what you actually do and what is happening in that industry. And they explained to me that it's more about the data. It's not that much about user interfaces and the technical side of software engineering, but it's more about the data. And that piqued my interest a lot about, I was always interested in what's the relationships between different types of data? How do you visualize data to gain more insights? How can you make data more valuable? And that kind of piqued my interest. And I think as a bonus or as the final camel that, or a piece of straw that broke the camel's back was the fact that you can make a contribution to people's health and contribute to an industry where you can actually, even though you're just a small part of a very big industry, you can help getting treatments to patients. I think that was just the final nail in the coffin to get, and that's why I was very interested to join the industry.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, and I mean, the clinical pipelines are, a massive amount of the industry, and just having the ability to, as you said, just both gather data as well as visualize it, is important pretty much everywhere in the industry as well. And I mean, I've just seen this part of our space just continue to grow, right? I mean, we see now there's a lot more with machine learning and then AI and things like that as well, that certainly have woven their way into the picture now, and not just visualizing the data or trying to better understand it.
Yes, and I do think we've only seen the start of the movie at the moment when it comes to AI and machine learning. I think in the coming 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a lot of developments and progress in the way we implement it to be more efficient and get better insights.
Yeah, and then early in your career, you were a programmer and a biostatistician. What lessons did you take from your early career experiences that help you now?
Yeah, so I started out as a SAS programmer in the data management department, working on things like patient profiles and data cleaning listings, and then later on moved to statistical programming, also in SAS, uh, SDTM, Adam, those kind of things. And I think as a programmer, uh, time management is very important because there's always deadlines, there's always things that need to be delivered at a certain time. You work on several different projects at the same time. So managing your time is very important. I think prioritizing, so knowing all of the tasks you need to do, prioritizing them, and then scheduling your day and your week is very important. I still use that same practice today. It doesn't help you to just take the first email in your inbox and start actioning it, and then the second one. You need to go through everything that needs to be scheduled, do your prioritization, schedule your day beforehand, know what you need to accomplish in that specific day. That makes you much more focused and effective in that specific day.
Yeah, I know that for teams that I've worked with, one of the things that I've repeatedly seen is that oftentimes there are challenges that you run into with the data, things that you just can't control with regards to things either. You have to really try and understand whenever problems occur. And I'm some by heart, I'm somebody that's built a lot of processes for companies. I've also built a lot of organizations that do project management. One of the things a good project manager wants is a solid date. And yeah, whenever we come up against these challenges in the data, I remember quite frequently having conversations with the data team, just saying, okay, so when are we going to have the data? And then I would repeatedly get this answer, well, we think it'll be this time, but it could be this time. And I'm like, that doesn't help me. I have to give the customer an answer, and yeah, it's kind of hard whenever you can't get a solid answer. So yeah.
Now, when you start digging into the data, you always get surprises, and you need to be able to handle the surprises. But handling the surprises takes time, and sometimes you don't have that time in your timeline. So you need to, as I said, prioritize and find ways to meet your deadline. It's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. I think learned a lot as you asked. When I was a programmer, there's a lot of life lessons I learned, even more than just the time management. If you, attention to detail. If you in a program miss a semicolon, it breaks your whole program. If you get something small wrong, the results is wrong. So
Right.
you need to be very attentive to even the smallest detail. And if you extrapolate that to a management level, you need to also be attentive to the details about what's the customer's requirements, what's going on in your team, what's the if you look at the finances. So that attention to detail is another thing I can think of that comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you're at Bioforum. Who is Bioforum and what do they do?
So I'm very honored to work for Bioforum. Bioforum is a global data-focused CRO. So we provide services to pharmaceutical companies that's around their data, from data management, so building EDC databases and cleaning the data and much more, to medical writing, helping the customers write the protocol, and at the end of the study, helping writing the CSR and journal articles, things like that. And then biostatistics, so very experienced statisticians helping the customers with study designs, sample size calculations, basically the statistical planning of the study. Then right through, we have a statistical programming team who can program all of the analysis that's needed, and then also your submission packages, the data that needs to go to the FDA. And yeah, so basically an end-to-end data services one-stop shop.
And you're in South Africa, but the is Bioforum global?
Yes, we've got four offices globally: South Africa, United States, Israel, and Australia.
Oh, very good. And then you previously worked for IQVIA for around 13 years. Um, and then now you're at Bioforum for about 4, according to LinkedIn. And I've said this before on the podcast. I oftentimes find that their dates are slightly either ahead or behind of where people are. But so what are the major differences in these companies?
So I want to start off by saying I loved working for both companies, learned a lot, very knowledgeable colleagues. I think you learn most from your colleagues and more experienced people than you. So it was a great pleasure working for both companies. On the differences side, uh, I think the Bioforum is a mid-sized CRO, so it's smaller. So I think the culture is a bit different. It's not so big. So the bigger the organization becomes, I think the culture change a bit from the employee perspective. From a business perspective, I think our customers is maybe a bit more diverse as a smaller mid-sized CRO.
Mm.
We are from academia. We work with academia, with smaller biotechs, up to the big pharma, and all of our customers have different requirements. So from the small the academia, they are maybe they have a very small budget, so they're very cost sensitive, where your big pharma have a different focus area where they are more focused on standardization and making sure everything is delivered on time, and they've got a different focus. So having this big diverse set of customers, I think is a bit different. But with that said, in a big organization, it can be the same, but from what I experienced at IQVIA, wasn't that diverse in the team that I was working in at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, just I mean, I guess if I were to summarize what I heard you say, sounds to me like Bioform's a bit more it's smaller yet more nimble, with a difference in culture than what you saw at IQVIA. Um, both good organizations, just not not exactly directly the same. Whenever I think of IQVIA, I mean, everywhere I turn in life sciences, I feel like they're everywhere. Like some other vendors. I mean, the same exact way that they've just acquired so many companies throughout time that they're just so big that every time you turn left or right, you seem to run into somebody else that's doing something with, especially IQVIA, and then with Bioforum, it's just not as popular of a name. For me outside of the CRO space. So for sure I've heard of Bioforum inside the CRO space.
Yes, no, for sure. It goes both ways. The bigger the organization, the more people will know of it, but also the more. I always said that at IQVIA, if you want something done, there's somebody who has already done it. It doesn't matter where you can find it.
Mm.
But I do want to get back to you mentioned nimble. I think that's a good way to describe Bioforum. I think we are very attentive to our customer needs because we have such a wide variety of different types of customers, and making sure we meet their exact needs and not enforce our way of doing things on them.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. I mean, especially in our space, and I mean, I see routinely companies that are trying to, bring something new into the space as well. And so having, process and structure is important as you get bigger as an organization, but at the same time, making sure that the client gets served at the end of the day is also absolutely critical. So I couldn't agree with you more, especially on that front. So right now you're the VP of operations at Bioforum. What is your daily focus?
So yeah, I've got quite a wide variety of responsibilities. I think I'll just highlight a few of them. So first off, on a day-to-day basis, I will look at operational metrics, from quality metrics to resourcing metrics to financial metrics and so on, making sure we are on track to meet our business objectives and our customers' objectives. And if we get, of course, need to do some mitigation planning and make sure we get back on track with whatever the issue may be. So overall governance of the department on various different levels. Professional services, I'm involved with professional services or responsible for professional services. So overseeing the team that actually delivers to the customer, making sure that the employees are happy, that they have the tools they need to be successful, to make sure they are developing and they have the knowledge and training that they need to perform well. Then also quality, I'm involved with quality. So in an organization, you need a very good quality framework.
Mm.
Otherwise, you won't be able to deliver consistently a high level of quality. So from your SOPs and work instructions to audit readiness, making sure you have the whole infrastructure. So I'm very involved with making sure we have everything in place and constantly keep adapting that. It needs to keep on improving because the industry keeps on improving. The requirements of the customers keep on changing. So you always need to make sure you constantly change this quality framework to stay up to date and to be able to deliver the highest level of quality work. Then business development. So a large part of my day is talking to customers, finding out what problems they're struggling with and figuring out how we can help them. So it can be from they need resources, so assigning people, helping them. It can be expertise. They need specific expertise in a very niche area, finding the right person to help them solve that problem. It can be technology. We are a CRO, but we're very innovative. So we have several products as well, which help us. One is BioGrid, which is a visualization tool. The other one is JetConvert, which is a tool that helps you to convert your data to STTM format, which is the format you need to submit to the FDA. So finding these technologies and or the people or whatever the customer needs to find a solution, work with them and find a solution. And then lastly, the innovation, I just spoke about it, JetConvert and BioGrid. I'm very involved with JetConvert. So I am kind of overseeing the development team and the professional services team in the sense of that they work together, that the development team know exactly what they need to develop this tool. What does the operational team need out of the tool, and by when do they need it to be successful? So making sure that the people that develop the innovation is very close to the people that actually does the work.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've got typical COO kind of responsibilities or VP of operations responsibilities where they're very broad, but also, got a lot of important things that you're doing and carrying overall for the organization. So absolutely sounds like a critical role. When clients normally come to you, what stage are they at? Can you describe some of the sort of early stages that you see whenever they first come to Bioforum?
It varies, really. It varies a lot. So some of the customers would come to us even before they write the protocol, even before they start with the study. So they would come to us and we as Bioforum would help them writing the protocol straight through designing the database, right to the end, writing the CSR and doing the submission package for them. So some customers contact us very early. In other cases, customers would come to us even after the database is locked, so the study is pretty much done, but they have never converted the data to STTM or ADAM, and they need this conversion to form part of a bigger submission, an NDA or something later. So, and then we only do that part for them. So we are very flexible in actually just addressing what the customer needs. So there's no typical time point at when they contact us. Some of them before the study, and we do the whole study, some of them even after the study or during the study, just for visualizations or just for medical writing for a journal article or something. So we're very adaptive to plug and play in with the customer on what exactly they need. Doesn't matter how small or how big the requirements are.
Great. And then one other question that's related to that, because you mentioned going all the way from academic through large companies and working with all of them in the industry. The other question is, do you work with both drug and diagnostic companies or only one or the other?
So medical devices and drug companies, we work with both.
Yep.
We have experience in both. So yes, we do work with both of them.
Okay. That's really helpful. Just in case anybody's listening, I wanted to, make sure that those questions are answered because I'm sure, it could come up, for anybody that's listening. So there are three questions that I like to ask every guest. What inspires you?
Building something. So through my career, I've built several teams from the ground up. I've been involved with innovations and software development, building a solution for a customer, a very complex solution to address a problem. So building anything motivates me a lot. It's a challenge. It's It's a challenge that gets me up in the morning, having to think about it with rigor and figuring it out. And then a lot of satisfaction at the end when you get the prize, when everything is done and you feel, yes, I've done a success. We've all worked together and we've accomplished this task that at the start might have been frightening or seeming insurmountable. In the end, we got it done. Facing a challenge and building something where there was nothing before.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I know that there are some people that, don't particularly care for kind of that ambiguity that comes in the very beginning, right? There's this a lot of unknowns, and it just makes people just very uneasy. And then there are other people that are just like, okay, so I have kind of a general picture where I want to go and what I need to do, and start to build something new is something that sounds fun to me, but at the same time, I know that there are other people in the world that just kind of go, yeah, that's not me.
Yeah, I do agree. There's a lot of gray area when you start and you need to figure out everything, but there's also a lot of hard work. If you start with a blank slate, it's much harder to put something on the sheet than if somebody already have all the processes in place, everything is in place, you just walk in and do the job. That's much easier. But I think the job satisfaction, or personally for me, the job satisfaction is much better to say, look at what we've built together, rather than we just did what the previous guys did. We just did the same thing over again.
Right. Yeah. What concerns you?
So, yeah, two things. I think if I take you back to when I started in the industry, we were still working on paper-based studies, and then EDC started to come in, and I think in the past 20 years, EDC has taken over the market, and there was a big revolutionary new technology within the data management area or data area of clinical trials. But I'm struggling to think of many more big revolutionary changes in the way we handle data. I won't say it's as such a concern, but the question arises with me, why? Why are we not? We say we're a very innovative industry, and I do believe we are when it comes to the medical side. We're finding new compounds and new treatments for diseases, so that's great. We're very innovative on that side. But when it comes to the way we handle data, are we really as innovative as we think? And what's all the barriers there? So it's a big question. So it keeps me up at night thinking about why we're not progressing faster. And I think there's a lot of technologies, which brings me to the next one. We touched on it earlier, machine learning and artificial intelligence, which is, I think, with ChatGPT last year that gave exposure to a lot of people on how far this technology have come. I do think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see significant changes in our industry. But you've always got the ethical question. What decisions should a machine make, and what decisions should a human make? And especially in the context of life sciences and clinical research, because it can impact people's lives. And so that's a big ethical concern or question. I don't think anybody has an answer at the moment. I think it's something that needs to be managed as we walk this route in the coming years. And the other question related to that is the regulatory question: is the regulatory bodies agile enough to adopt this new technology or accept this new technology to be used in clinical trials, and to what level? That's a big open-ended question that we'll see as it progresses through the coming years.
Yeah, it's extremely interesting to see how far ChatGPT has come, just in general, and how just a few, I would say, structured prompts can generate something that you just kind of sit back and go, wow, I can't believe it came up with that. But to me, it is interesting from that standpoint. On the AI side, I also would say, so Dusty Majumdar has been on the podcast a few times, and we've talked about explainable AI and the importance of, at least in healthcare, understanding how the AI sort of arrived at its main decision as well, that not just trusting the machine, but just making it more or less explain how how did you arrive at this solution as well? Because in some cases, it actually could be providing a wrong answer, which is an interesting thing to go back to ChatGPT for a second, because you could say, write a story, and in the story it will mix actual facts with things that are not real facts, and if you're not sort of aware enough to go, well, wait a minute, is that a real fact, or did it just make something up? Whenever it comes to healthcare, that would be really scary to have it do that, on that end. All of a sudden it makes an assumption that's not true, or adds a fact that's not really a fact.
Yeah, true. I agree 100% with you. If inherently in machine learning, there's an error rate.
Mm.
The fact that there's an error rate means it's not 100% accurate. So if you think about analysis results of a clinical trial, so are you saying, well, if it's 95 or higher, we are fine with that? I don't think that's an acceptable way. We do have machine learning in the one tool, JetConvert, that I spoke about. And how we handled it is the machine will do the initial, and then we have somebody checking what the machine did. So you still have human validation, if you want to call it that, around that. So that ensures that the quality is good, and you can find where the quality is not good. But it's a big, won't always be possible for a human to review what the machine did. And the question is, what do we do then? Do we allow it? Do we not allow it? We still need to safeguard patients and people. So efficiency is not everything. So it's very interesting to see this play out.
Yeah, I agree. And then, back to your last comment as well, I feel like the idea of better, sort of thought processes around the mathematics that go into all of this stuff, just has to continue to evolve as well. And, we just, to your first point, which was, just kind of seeing that evolution is important, as well. So, yeah, I agree.
Totally agree.
Last question. What excites you?
Finding a solution to a very complex problem. So it doesn't matter what that is. It can be something personal or at home. It can be something in my job. I think it's something to do with being a programmer, problem solving, getting that satisfaction after you've figured out something and you feel, okay, I've done it. That excites me a lot. And I think something else which we touched on several times during the discussion is seeing progress. So even if it's personal growth or professional growth, or as an organization growing and learning as an organization, and in the industry, how we as an industry move forward, you don't move forward by leaps and bounds every quarter. It is a step by step, personally and then as an industry. So seeing this progress and looking back at where I started, what the industry looked like when I started versus what it looks like today, and the progress that's been made, and knowing I was a small part of that progress, that excites me a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, I oftentimes reflect on this, but I don't normally say it, to people either. The main eureka moment that I remember in my life was I was taking an electronics class between my sophomore and junior year in high school. And so, essentially what would that be, 10th and 11th year of school in the US. And I remember I just was not understanding the math that goes along with the electronics exams that we had. And it was late at night, 10:30 or so. And all of a sudden, just as I was starting to relax, that was the first time that something clicked in my head where I went, wait a minute, I understand exactly what we're trying to do now. I woke up and, could work the problems for the test the next day, which it was a great thing for me. But whenever I reflect now, I think about the fact that to make it all those years in school without one of those moments up till that point, it was pretty scary as well. You would think that they would be happening all along the way, but it is so important to have that feeling of growth, and then having, things just kind of fall in place as well. Those eureka moments are important.
Yeah, and they don't have to be big eureka moments,
Mm.
meaning
Yeah.
every small obstacle you overcome is a mission accomplished. And a lot of mission accomplished give you momentum, and momentum leads to bigger things and bigger eureka moments. So it's keeping the momentum, and even acknowledging the small successes, even it doesn't have to be a big one. Yeah.
Completely agree. Well, Bremer, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing with us about Bioforum and what you do on a daily basis as a VP of operations. So I greatly appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Don. The honor is all mine. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks a lot.